Good evening, everyone. This is Kevin Smiley coming to you from Abilene, Kansas. Going to talk to you about the Module 3 assignment of understanding my community. First off, with the knowing customs and traditions of Abilene, a couple of its historical things. It's the home of President Eisenhower. There is a large presidential museum here in town, and it's a big tourist draw. There's also many other museums in town. There is specifically down here the National Greyhound Hall of Fame Museum in town also. The town was founded in the early 1800s as a cattle town. Texas cattle would be driven north to Abilene where they'd get on the railroad and be sent to slaughterhouses in Kansas City and Chicago. And it wasn't until the 1860s, though, that it got the name of Abilene. It came from a passage in the Bible meaning City of the Plains, and I thought this was emphasized on one of the signs when you come into town. It says faith plus community equals Abilene. Like I said, it's home to the National Greyhound Hall of Fame and Museum. It's also home to what they call the NGA, the National Greyhound Racing Association. And there is an annual meeting every year that draws people from all over the country to Abilene that have to do with greyhound racing. In my short time here, I've noticed a common expression of "it is what it is." I hear that a lot from young folks and old folks alike. The idea of meaning to accept the uncontrollable and deal with it as best you can. I think it's a great saying. It shows the blue-collar attitude and pride that people have in their small town, and that they're willing to overcome obstacles and face any challenge. There's a strong family-first spirit here in town, and that's what brought my wife and I and our two kids to Abilene. And my in-laws are here, so that gave myself the introduction to Abilene, but I loved it from there out. Each summer there's the local fair and 4-H events, a big parade with tons of candy for the kids, rodeo events and all that kind of stuff that goes on in the summer. There are several restaurants in town for dining. There's a small movie theater and a bowling alley if you want to do those things. There's traveling sports teams if you want to get your kids involved in that. There's lots to do. There's a well-maintained downtown area with the original buildings that are 150 years old or so, and these quaint shops that are in there, and a lot of antique malls. Being a history teacher, I even like to visit those once in a while. A nice slow pace to life, with the importance being on building relationships with friends and neighbors. I see that a lot. People are slow to leave the sporting events or the school events as they hang out and talk with their friends and neighbors, and that's where they see each other outside of work. So there's a nice slow pace in town. A predominantly white population with a small amount of high-income families. It's mostly a blue-collar workers or hourly wage labor community. There's several churches of all types of Christianity. Catholics seem the most predominant in town, though. There is a small private Christian school here in town of a K through 5 building. As far as change goes, the Abilene Public Schools have underwent some big change recently. In 2012, they began an iPad initiative of a one-to-one iPad for every student 3 through 12 that has the ability to take them home from school if their parents pay a small insurance fee of $40 per year. This has brought new challenges to parents as far as keeping their kids on task while they say they're doing homework, and it's also brought challenges to veteran teachers to use more technology in their classrooms, use less paper. If you've gotten in the routine for 10, 20, 30 years, it's hard to switch over to an iPad and change everything you've been doing. So that's some big change going on. I'll mention later too, there's a big bond issue coming up in April. We're trying to pass a $24 million bond issue to update existing schools and build a new elementary school. So that'll bring about some big change and a lot of things going on this spring in Abilene Public Schools. No population characteristics. It's predominantly high school graduates, with only 23% having a bachelor's degree. There's a wide variety of population ages, as you can see here, and enrollment seems constant at approximately 960 students in the district. It's a 4A high school with about 450 students in the high school. There's about 350 in the middle school, which is grades 6 through 8. And one thing I really like is that the elementary buildings are split by grade levels. So one building in the whole town has all the kindergartners and first graders. Another building has every second and third grader in the entire town. And then another building has every 4th and 5th grade student in the entire town. So there's not a rich side of town or a poor side of town where people move to be in that school. It's every kid of that age goes to that school. So I like that a lot, and I've seen some certain benefits to that. I've noticed a strong parental support for teachers. My wife is also a teacher, and we have a few ideas behind this, but that doesn't pertain to this assignment. Let's see, as I mentioned, mostly wage labor jobs without benefits. This creates a need for support programs in schools, and each school seems to have many unique and different ways of helping their students who are in need. A pretty steady population overall for a community. Recently seen many move-in military families as the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan have started to dwindle down. We've had some more move-ins in the last couple of years, I guess. Like I said, this is only my second year in Abilene, so a lot of this stuff is still very new to me. The 2010 census projects a slight decline, though, from 2010 to the present. School district's the largest employer, followed by many family farms and the local grocery store. The former largest employer was Alco Stores, formerly known as Duckwalls. They just moved their headquarters from Abilene to Dallas, Texas, which caused a large loss of funding to district and community programs. And as I mentioned, it's a predominantly white community with extended families and many generations of those families still in town. So there's a lot of grandparents, great-grandparents of my students still living in town. Know the communication channels. There is a well-maintained district website. High school athletics are on Twitter and Facebook to get all the recent announcements about games and contests and changes and all that stuff out to the parents. Local radio station and the newspaper do an excellent job of covering school events because it's just Abilene's newspaper and just Abilene's radio, so they're all over the school stuff. And the district has an audio recorded system that you can get a phone call or a text message if there's any sort of weather closings. The newspaper seems like the most consumed media outlet. For the size of the town, there are, I say, quite a few, several English language learning families, but most have a child who is fluent in speaking English. It is my understanding that many of the male adults in these families help on local greyhound farms, just some cheap imported labor, I presume. Each week the newspaper does a teacher feature. It showcases one teacher within the district, has them answer some questions about themselves and their family and their influences in life and all that other stuff. So a lot of communication channels for such a small community that are based around the schools. Knowing the groups, from what I know of, there's several local clubs, a few of them, Stonemasons, Optimists, the Shriners, VFW. I'm sure there's more that I don't know about. For reasons unbeknownst to me, there seems like a lot of turnover in superintendents over the past 30 years. I know we just got a new superintendent a year and a half ago, which is still in place. The superintendent before that was only here for a couple of years. The guy before that was here for a handful of years, but there's just not a lot of stability, doesn't seem like, in that position. I think we found a good one now, a local who's been in the town for a long time and has a lot of good ideas, so I think she'll be around for a long time. Curriculum is implementing the college and career readiness standards and MTSS reading and behavior stuff. Physical textbooks have become a smaller priority with the iPads. And some informal groups I know of are the Abilene Baseball Club and the local 4-H and those kind of things. The main issue right now, though, is to pass this bond issue to update existing schools and build a new upper elementary building for 4th and 5th grade classrooms. Currently, they're in a building that was built during the something with President Roosevelt, and to help end the Depression. They started building a lot of schools in the late 30s or 40s or so, late 30s, to get local jobs, and it's a school that's that old. It's been updated several times, but it's just not functional anymore, so they're trying to build a new one. Knowing the leadership, the superintendent seems to have the respect of classroom teachers and stakeholders. She's been in the district from the start of her career and had 4 children pass through the district. Small business owners also are an important part of the community as they provide jobs to the local people, help support the district events and many things like that. The Parks and Rec Director is also an important person. She coordinates many programs with the school districts that take place on a daily basis. Knowing the other lines of leadership throughout the community would help a leader reach Standard 4 of the ISLLC standards to communicate with community members with diverse interests and needs. So I think that knowing the other leaders would help you meet Standard 4 real well. To meet Standard 5, a leader needs to act with integrity, ethics, and fairness in order to become trusted by the community. And when in a small town, you really got to show yourself first before people are going to take you in. So you've got to have those personal standards to get a good name for yourself. The school board and city council leaders are older adults with years of experience, and in a small town, roles are known and elected leaders know to make themselves available. So if you want to be on the good side with all these leaders, you've got to act with integrity, fairness, and good ethics so that you can be a good school leader. That would help you meet Standard 5. The economic conditions: the largest employer of Alco just left town last year. The warehouse is still in town, but rumor of the warehouse leaving also is a hot topic in town. There's many farm families, there's some small manufacturing plants, there's a local public transportation bus system. As far as the big economic conditions, only 22% of the community, according to the census, has a bachelor's degree or higher, and the per capita income is around $24,000. So there's stable employment for food service and technicians, but the wages just aren't very high. There have been 2 recent farm land auctions that have shown a drastic increase in land value. So with that, I think we'll bring a rise in property taxes and those income to the community. The school district offices are located in the heart of downtown, so they're very accessible to anyone who needs them. The political structure: the city board just voted to not create a new city tax that would help pay for the proposed bond issue, therefore attempting to separate politics from education. I really think this surprised everyone, though, when they did this. With the recent reports of national testing and rankings, I would call it more of a national misunderstanding. People don't understand that our scores reflect every child in the 3rd largest country with the most individual freedoms on earth. Countries that finish in the top of the global testing scores have many things in common. First, being less individual freedoms, like China. Second is a less diverse population, because I believe culture influences education. And third is size. So down here, it is my opinion that less students of a consistent background from a more restrained society will be much easier to educate to the test. And so a lot of people think that the United States is doing a terrible job, and we have students who rank really low, but I've been in schooling for 9 years now. We've got a lot of kids that are very bright, and we've got kids that struggle a lot, but they all come from different backgrounds. I don't see any social tensions in town that I know of. Like I said, I haven't been here that long, but with a 94% white community, there's just not much of a chance for interracial confrontations. So that's what I know about understanding my community of Abilene. Like I said, I've only been here for a year and a half as we moved to town in the fall of 2012. We've loved it since the day we got here, but that's what I know. So hopefully you learned a little more about Abilene, and I hope that helped.